Well, there hasn't a lot changed really since we last spoke. At the moment, in fact, this afternoon, I think 1 o'clock. I think it's probably already started. I know Atlas are making an announcement to a lot of Warriors. I think there's 500 plus Warriors supporters going 6 ways in relation to what their side of things are going forward. And I say nothing's really changed on our end in that we need to meet with Atlas. We've had the initial consultations. We've looked at the possibilities of that symbiotic relationship developing, but again, that's a long way off. We need to see. The key thing is this: is if there's a commercial vehicle in relation to our first team, then there has to be a kickback. There has to be a payback, which is substantial for our club, for our members, and that's the key thing: is to keep the identity of Stourbridge Rugby Club, which is first and foremost a club that's been around since 1876. And ensure that the infrastructure of our club is compensated. Now you could say sell your soul to the devil, or we're not. We're in a position at the moment. I've said again and again about where we are as a club. People said to me in the last few weeks that you've got clubs that are local to you like DK and Old Hills who are doing really well in the leagues and potentially winning respectively within 4 miles of where we are. But the difference is this is national leagues, and one of the key things we've highlighted as a club is our feeder. Our demographic's not great. None of our senior schools, apart from Old Swinford, play rugby. So we need to address that. That's not a quick fix. It's something we need to establish and get established over a matter of years. So that's why we looked at this. How do we go forward as a club? We've got great facilities. We'll probably champion any national one or even potentially a championship club at our facilities. But at the moment, we're not in a good place, and we need to address that. This was an opportunity to do that.
And we spoke last Thursday when the news broke, Neil, and am I right in saying obviously the club had an informal meeting on Friday night, and am I right in saying tomorrow kind of the members who weren't able to attend that meeting are going over what you've discussed. So we've seen reports that from that meeting it was overwhelmingly negative, and then you saw the statement from yourself on Facebook which said, well, actually no, it was encouraging. We're still looking to broaden horizon, still looking to work on this proposal. So can you kind of give us the bottom line really? How did that meeting go, if you're able to delve into that at all?
Well, yeah, I mean, overall, it was an opportunity to just we did a PowerPoint, explain what the situation is. We talked about the myths first and foremost that have come out in the last 2 or 3 days in relation to the fact we were going to play it 6 ways, that we're going to be called the club is going to be called 6 ways. That was not the case. So we explained that was said, or whether it was misconstrued, I think it was actually quoted from Jim O'Toole. But that's not what we've agreed. We've not agreed to any of that. This is in its infancy, and this is a case of speaking to the club, saying, look, we've got a potential sponsorship here. Really is what this is a sponsorship. It's giving a bit because we're giving effectively or potentially giving our first team, but at the moment we're 13 points adrift in the national leagues. I've explained the situation with our demographic. If we get relegated, where do we pull from? Where's that going to come from? And I think, you've seen clubs like Manchester, who we were, up with many years ago. And look what's happened there. It's plummeted many other clubs that leave. If you've got the good demographic, to use the word yet again, then you can probably rebuild. But where do we rebuild from? It's always been grabbing and getting players from here. My connections with British police have always managed to get a team together, a squad to play at level 4. But I think that's changing now, and we've got to face facts.
Yeah, I mean, you've touched on it quite a lot, Neil, but for those who might be new to this story, it sounds like one of the key things is improving that kind of playing infrastructure for you guys. So what are kind of the key points in this proposal which you're able to maybe explain or maybe give us a brief insight into for those who don't know?
Well, I'd like to get rugby played in our senior schools. I think that would be part of what we'd like to do. We'd like to see, our big, we've got, a lot of senior schools around us getting the game played. Again, I take Osh as a senior school who play rugby, which is probably our nearest. But again, historically they've created some fantastic elite players. But again, a lot of the guys go off to uni and may not come back to the area. And we've got guys who play at Stourbridge who are from Osh. But I say it's a small pool coming in, and we need to widen that pool because for a club of our size, and again with the DKs and with Old Hillsonians, who are very successful clubs in their own right, and even Kidderminster, same again, very well run, and again within a small area, but we're all fishing from the same pool. But for national rugby, it's a different story. You can perhaps understand that national rugby is a good level, and in order to maintain that level, you need that supply of players. And it's not just a case of buy-ins. We've got to make sure that we build from the bottom. We've got aspirations for our youngsters to play at the very best level. But the key thing we need to emphasise in this is Stourbridge Rugby Club is not going away. We're not losing the product. SRFC 1876 will be staying. It's not going anywhere. Even if the members agree to this, we won't be going anywhere. If the commercial vehicle is there to allow Atlas to progress, and then that benefits the club, but there must be a massive benefit to our club in its infrastructure for this to work, and that's what the membership need to understand, and that's hopefully what the membership will see, and I hope that it's voted through. I've been involved for 20 years as DOR. I know the club, I know the people. Sometimes not the most popular individual, but if you're going to make an omelette, you're going to crack a few eggs. So I just feel, the committee feel, as I say, the committee, we work hard together. We all feel the same on this. And hopefully we'll be able to persuade the majority of the membership to see that this is a sensible move for us. If not, that's absolutely fine. It's a risk we've taken, and if that's not what the club wants, then that's not what they want.
It's very hypothetical to say this, Neil, and you said there the club's not going anywhere. Stourbridge Rugby Club's not going anywhere. So, all the reports are saying, I know you touched on it a minute ago, but moving to 6 ways, the name change stuff, that is not something at the moment that you can confirm or deny.
No, as I said, until everything's on the table. I mean, there's due diligence to take place here. We've got to look at this legally. We've got to consult the membership before we have a special general meeting. Everybody has to be on board with this. Okay, well, everybody. We have to have the majority on board with this. Clearly, people totally disagree with what's going on. People don't want to lose their name, and again, it doesn't sit well with me. But you can't have it both ways. If we've got the potential for a serious financial build into our infrastructure for the future, for generations to come, that's got to be worthwhile. That's got to be worth looking at. We've got to give that a chance. Or we could go to the Corinthian route, which I think will be the outcome. Rugby's not in a great place in a lot of places in the country, not just in our country in Wales, as we've seen at the moment. And I think the community game's suffering. There's the head injury issues. It's not in a great place. So I think that relationships between clubs, senior clubs and junior clubs is the way forward. It's worked in so many other areas in the country. Look at the sale, the sale model. That's working well. You've got a junior club feeding a senior club, and that's what we like to try and aspire to. But the key thing is we've got to improve our demographic. We've got to get players playing in schools, senior level and junior level, which we do through our community group at the moment. But that's going to be accelerating. I think this opportunity to put us on a map would give us the boost to take the club to the place it should be with the facilities it's got.
You touched on it last week when we spoke as well. You said it's about getting Stourbridge on the map, getting the club back on the map in the region as well. And it's clear from a personal perspective, I know obviously everything comes down to the membership and you consulting with the membership, Neil, but how enthusiastic or how positive you are. You do obviously see, look, nothing's confirmed, we need to speak to everyone, we need to consult to everyone, but you do see the opportunity here.
Yeah, I do, not just me. As I say, it's about the committee. We have a committee who've been absolutely, the support's been there from the outset. They see that, and we've spoken to a lot of people at the club who understand what this concept is. Clearly, there are going to be people that don't like the idea. Nobody likes change. But I'm afraid we're living in a world now where change needs to take place. We've got to face reality. And again, having my involvement, at the coalface at rugby for, best part of 3 decades, I understand how the game's changed, how it's evolved. And I think the change needs to take place. That's my opinion.
That's true, yeah.
And I've got people who support that opinion. Some people don't, clearly. And there are people in the club who are absolutely dead against this. But I understand that. But the whole idea of a fans-based decision is it's democratic. It's a democratic decision. And if the club want to do it, we're all in. If the club decide not to do it, then we've tried. Corinthian rugby might be the option for Stourbridge going forward. I really don't think so. For a club I've been part of, I think if it goes the Corinthian route, and not just myself, again, the committee, then I think it's somewhere where, with our facility, I really don't see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and just a couple more from me, Neil, because I know we're pressed for time. Before the game, we're chatting on a Saturday, and I touched on it before that, you've got another informal meeting tomorrow with the members who couldn't be there at last Friday's informal meeting. Does that kind of highlight the point you've just made there, that you want everybody to be on the same page of this? You're not, we spoke with one meeting and that's it. You're trying to make sure everybody knows who's involved with Stourbridge Rugby Club exactly where you're up to at the moment. Yeah,
it's got to, we've got to have an open book with this. I think that consultation must go. As I said, I'm expecting some negativity to come tomorrow because, it's sat there. People have got questions. We've seen it on social media. People have got doubts. Integrity, has come into question, which I think is so unfair. But there's no response on social media. There are several things that I think need to be outed in relation to that. But the key thing is presentation to the members of what the concept is. Then we'll be getting a consultative group together from all areas of the club and stakeholders. So there'll be businessmen involved in that, plus what I would call stakeholders in the club, in order to ensure that we're doing the right thing. And then we present Atlas with almost a fait accompli. you know, this is what you're looking at, and this is what we want.
Okay.
If we can't meet that, or we can't negotiate that decision, then the deal's off the table, and we continue doing what we're doing. We've lost nothing. Yes, it's been highlighted in the media and social media, and it's obviously ruffled a few feathers, but this is where we are. So I say nothing lost for the club. It's an opportunity to get sponsorship and commercial investment into something that is not in a particularly good place at the moment. And if it works, brilliant. If it doesn't, the members will decide.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Like, people, you know, we've seen all the reports, Neil, but this is ultimately down to the membership, isn't it? It's not actually down to whatever Atlas is saying or whatever's reported locally or nationally. It's not down to, at the moment, it's not down to the RFU. It's absolutely all down to your membership making this decision, and if it's yes or no, as you just highlighted, then so be it.
And again, the other thing, you asked that question about where location, that's RFU.
Yeah.
The RFU can decide where we play, so if they say, you know,
and you'd love to play at Stourton Park, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And I know Richard Barron said that the longevity of Stourton Park's massive.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, you know, that is key. And if there is a name change, how will that rank with people? But as I said, if the offset is infrastructure in the future, for the majority of our members who are mini and juniors and Colts who aspire to bigger and better things, then is that worth? So it's a case of, is it worth it? Is it worth this commitment? Some will say absolutely no. Some will say, well, let's give it a go. As I said, but it will ultimately be down there. But the RFU can clearly define how this ends up. They may say no name change and no move. So we might vote it in, but we're stuck where we are, and that might be a very strange scenario to look at. But that's in the hands.
But the first step is ultimately with your members.
But that would be in the hands of the RFU. So there's a lot of challenges here to overcome, and there's going to be some sleepless nights en route, I'm sure. So.
I just finally, obviously, the proposal is looking at the long-term vision for Stourbridge. But what are the next short-term steps of this? Do you have kind of a date for the special general meeting at the moment, or are you, as we've just spoken about, you've got another informal meeting on the Sunday? We're recording this on the Saturday, and once everybody's aware, is that when you start to progress towards that special general meeting?
Well, no, the key thing then is to organise the meetings with Atlas, and it won't be one, will it? This is a negotiation process. First of all, we'll have to ensure that legal side's looked at. Say due diligence here is key. Not only the people that we're doing business with, but to ensure that everything is in line, everything's done properly. But the consultation process, as I said, stakeholders, you know, businessmen, clearly we want to look at the M&J section because they are effectively our largest membership, just to ensure that they're comfortable, they're happy, and that we've done everything possible to ensure that this position works. And there will be negotiation, because I'm sure there'll be, well, we're not prepared to give on this, and we'll say, well, if you don't, then we can't do this. So as I said, we've lost nothing, but we've got everything to gain, in my opinion.
And regardless of how the season goes for the next 8 games or so, Neil, are Atlas committed to wherever you are in terms of if you are a National League club, or if you are to go down to level 5? Or is that something you can't?
In respect of if we were relegated this year, yeah, they're still, we've spoken about that, and if we went into the Midlands League, they would still support us.